Welcome back to the channel, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. My name is JW Creewell, aka Flex Daddy Righteous, and we have a tournament for you today. Now, every week for the last 2 months, I have been running a Discord tournament every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. And this week, I decided, you know what would be great to bring to the channel? It streamed. I wanted to stream all the games and provide some commentary for you, and that is going to be a regular thing heading into the next few weeks, assuming that we have enough players and we have enough interest and we have enough players that are willing to stream themselves. So thank you to everyone who participated in the tournament. Thank you to everyone who participated in the tournament and streamed their games. I know that is not the easiest, but you're going to see 3 matchups here from Wednesday's tournament, and they're fun. I mean, there are really just some exciting moments in there. So I hope you really enjoy this, and I'd love to bring this to you every single Thursday. Now, go down below if you want to join these tournaments. There is a Discord link, and I would love to have you. These tournaments are full of some of the just nicest people that I have played Pokemon with. So I hope you will consider joining us next Wednesday. And hey, you never know, you might get streamed. So I hope you enjoy this. This is the July 1st Discord tournament stream matches. What is up, everybody? We are back with our first tournament on this channel. This is something very exciting that I've been wanting to bring for you for a long time, and we finally get to do it. This is our matchup between Josh Sutherland and Connor Holt. So we are looking at Josh's screen right now. He is playing an ADP Zacian variant, and we have Connor on the other side playing his trusty Inteleon. So Josh is deciding here what he wants to start with. Is he going to go with the Zacian V? Is he going to go with the Mewtwo? Maybe even the Zamazenta. The Zamazenta should make some good use in the Inteleon matchup. Of course, Inteleon VMAX relying on the power of the VMAX to take KOs, spread damage, return energy to the hand. And if Josh is able to get a Zamazenta V into the active powered up, he should have a pretty good time. Now, Josh plays down the Jirachi, has a switch in hand, kind of looks at that, maybe eyeing up what he wants to switch into with the Jirachi. And Connor, awful start. We're going to hope that he can grab a basic Pokemon. We do see an Inteleon hit the bench with a Water Energy and a pass. So definitely not where you want to be if you're Connor, but at the very least, he can hope for a VMAX on the next turn, start to do some damage, and we see that Josh actually discards he discards the Zamazenta. I was a little bit surprised on that. I thought that might be a really good card in this matchup, but Josh opting instead to go ahead and pitch that. We see a Oranguru hit the bench as well as the ADP, a Primate Wisdom off of the Oranguru, and I want to see Josh Stellar Wish. He does end up getting the Energy Spinner, which is a huge card to draw, because not only can he get an energy for the ADP, he can get some backup energies for attachments on the next couple of turns. I would say grab a couple of energies. Yeah, at least 2. And since you're going to research on the next turn, you're probably fine to maybe just stick with 2 and keep another metal in the deck so that you can hit one off of the Zacian Intrepid. Okay, fine. We're going to see the we're going to see the research. So very good. He gets the Frying Pan attached. Going to go see a Stellar Wish. And do we see him grab the boss's orders or the research? He has a research in hand. I would like him to, maybe grab nothing. He opts to do that. And then an Intrepid Sword is perfect. He has the energy in hand, and he gets to attach another energy. That is a very impressive board state on turn 1. So the action passes back over to Connor. We'll see what he has in store for us. Can he get a VMAX going? Can he get a Snom down? Does he have a supporter? Now, that first hand was very weak. Without the Snom, without a Dedenne, we do see a reset stamp. Decent play by Connor, knowing that Josh has such a massive hand. after that Intrepid Sword. So we see another energy attachment. Don't tell me it's a pass. Don't tell me this is a pass. We see a switch. Oh no. And a boss's orders. Okay, and he's going to probably snipe the Jirachi if I had to guess. We'll see some damage go on to... From the snipe shot onto the ADP, not a bad choice either, especially since that ADP can't be scooped up with the scoop up net. Unfortunately, for Connor, he just didn't have much in hand. This is all that he has to work with. The only supporter in his hand was that boss's orders, and you want to hit into your boss's orders later in the game. Those are more of a late game card. Whenever you have to use your boss's orders early, it's generally not where you want to be. So we see the aggressive play by Josh, scooping up the Oranguru, going into a Jirachi, maybe to get a supporter for the next turn. No, yes, goes into Jirachi. Stellar Wishes. And puts the scoop up net to the top of the deck. He's going to go here with the Dedenne. I don't think that's too bad. That's just very aggressive, maybe a little bit more aggressive than I would be, but it really doesn't matter at this point. Josh is taking out the only attacker on Connor's side of the field. So a Stellar Wish will net him the boss's orders, and the scoop up net will net him a Jirachi back to hand and an attack with the Zacian V. At this point, you don't really even need the ADP GX attack. So we see a 230 one shot on the Inteleon. Takes a couple of prizes. A skateboard and Jirachi go to Josh's hand, and at this point he's got a switch. He's got an skateboard. There's not a ton that Connor can do. He is going to try to set up another Inteleon. We'll see if he is able to do this. We need to see a Snom also this turn. If Connor wants to put any amount of realistic pressure onto Josh, he is definitely going to need that Snom to be able to power up an Inteleon VMAX. It almost makes me wonder there for Connor. Obviously, Josh had a very, very good second turn, but it makes me wonder if Connor wanted to just sacrifice that Eldegoss, maybe leave that active for another turn. Maybe doing that 40 damage snipe on the ADP doesn't really matter all that much. And so I wonder how the game changes if he protects the Inteleon V on the bench. But that's neither here nor there. Connor is able to get out a Snom to the bench. And that is about as good as he can hope for. It's just really awkward at this point. He's going to need like some kind of pivot. Just as soon as I say that, I think we're going to see a Jirachi come off this quick ball. And that would be a pretty good pivot here for Connor. See what he grabs to hand. Could be a Dedenne that he took to hand. Maybe wants to draw a few more cards, but no, opts instead to just pass. I couldn't see the card that he grabbed, but we do see the Jirachi with the skateboard into the switch. We'll see a Stellar Wish, and looking for what I would imagine to be a supporter. We see the research, and Josh does opt to grab the research. Now, he does have the boss's orders. I think if it were me, I would just go ahead and boss up the Inteleon V, and it looks like that's exactly what Josh is doing. So despite playing a deck that relies on the ADP's GX attack, he hasn't needed to use it so far. This has just been an absolute domination by Zacian V of the Inteleon VMAXs. Now, Inteleon has a pretty decent matchup against ADP, being able to scoop up the energy off of the ADP on the first turn, on the second turn. But we just didn't see that really take its course. It was really just an awkward game from our Inteleon VMAX player. Now the Frostmoth comes down. Again, not too much that Connor can do. He kind of has to hope for no more switches, maybe a reset stamp, and then try to retreat into something that does some damage. We see a Dedenne, but at this point in the game, if he has no way to refresh the hand of his opponent, then we see obviously that Josh has the Great Catcher onto that Dedenne and the switch to be able to move this Zacian V to the bench. thereby resetting the Brave Blade attack. So looking pretty menacing here. Connor just in a pickle. Probably has to just, maybe even just pass with the Frostmoth. If you're Connor, you don't know what Josh has in his massive hand, but I think you have to force the... No, instead just goes with the Inteleon V. I was going to say, I think you have to force the Gust here, but no, instead goes for a snipe shot and says, you either got it or you don't. Josh gives him the well played and a good sportsmanship and plays the switch onto the Jirachi. Hopefully he'll just retreat and be a good sport. We do see the Gray Catcher and the retreat into the Zacian V, so a great game by Josh. Well played all around. Josh Sutherland taking this game. And in our next matchup, this is round 2 of the Wednesday night Discord tournament. We have Mickey, Blue Eyes, Ma Wilson facing off against Emerson Riley, Level X Prince. So this will be kind of an interesting matchup. We have the Greens deck from Ma Wilson here, but it's a Greens deck that also includes Dedenne, not something that you often see, but the Dedenne should give them a little bit greater draw power, maybe in the late game after they've used up some of their greens, and then greens to facilitate the early game. It is a fire-based deck with Volcanion. We have Reshiram Charizard and Braixen, along with Victini and Victini V. So that'll be a very interesting deck. I'm excited to see how that functions. We also have the deck from Emerson as just a standard Blacephalon list. So the players are getting set up, and we should see some action here after Mickey draws his prizes. Or, excuse me, draws his hand and sets out his prizes. I'm going to start there with the Reshiram and Charizard. And with a Welder in hand, not a bad start. They can get the 200 damage off on the first turn. Of course, the Blacephalon list doesn't really care how much damage you do, although hitting into that Cramorant V is huge. So it looks like Emerson drew the Jirachi off of the Mulligans, is able to get a switch into the Jirachi, and does opt to play the Fiery Flint, discarding 2 fires to grab 4 out of the deck. Now that will thin the deck down for the Stellar Wish. And we do see that come up here. Welder to the hand. Pretty scary stuff from Emerson. The 4 energy, the Welder, looking to set themselves up very nicely for the next turn. Oranguru comes down. Not a card that you see often in Blacephalon lists. Not a bad card necessarily, but just not one that you often see. It is going to help here with the acquisition of the Heat Factory. We see a Heat Factory and a Friend Ball. Wow, that Friend Ball, you don't often think it'll come into great use, but when you play against a Firebox deck, that is just the perfect card to get out your Blacephalon. So I would have liked to see an energy attachment there on the first turn. We know that Emerson does have energy in their hand. Unfortunately, just didn't see that. Whether or not that was a calculated decision or just a misstep, it shouldn't matter all that much. But again, just getting ahead on the prizes or on the attachments is pretty important. So we see a Quick Ball here, looking to probably get into a Volcanion. They went second, and so being able to use that Flare Starter to get things going will be a big help. Again, you're playing against a really aggressive deck in Blacephalon, so it's really hard to maybe counteract the one-shot potential that the Blacephalon has. Now, we do just see the Welder has come down on the active, and very interesting, opting to instead discard off the Heat Factory, their last energy, but doesn't really get punished, is able to pull out a couple more energy with the Heat Factory, although I wonder how much this will help them as opposed to helping their opponent. Now, the second Reshiram Charizard coming down, I don't love, because I think I'd rather see a Victini V. Try to force like a 7 or even 8 prize game. If you can go Reshiram Charizard into the Victini V, into another Reshiram Charizard, then you're really getting a lot more effect for your attackers. Instead, they opt to go with 2 Reshiram Charizard. We'll see if that punishes. Again, they might be able to alter their route later in the game where you have, some time. You can sit behind your Volcanions. So you should have a little bit of time to do what you need to do. We do see the GX attack for the first prize by Ma Wilson. So a welder onto the Blacephalon. A skateboard comes down onto the Jirachi. Will Emerson have the knockout? And a B-Springer too. Oh my gosh. This is absolutely horrible for Mikey. So with the B-Springer attached, that Blacephalon is going to take 4 prizes off of this Reshiram and Charizard. We see a Fiery Flint. And if the last 2 cards in Emerson's hand are Fire Energy, then they will have the knockout. We do see a Stellar Wish, so maybe getting a Fire Crystal or an Energy Retrieval. Fire Crystal is found off the top 5, and that will almost assuredly be a knockout. I do believe that there are 3 Fire Energy cards in the discard. And yep, we see them come back to the hand. So with the 4 that they grabbed out of the deck and the 3 that were in the discard, that is more than enough to take a knockout. See a Quick Ball come down, potentially grabbing something like the Oricorio, drawing a few more cards, and we do see the Oricorio going into her hand, play it on the bench, and they can use the ability off of that Oricorio. So again, it shouldn't matter too much, but at the same time, it could matter. So I would have liked to see the cards go to hand off of the ability on the Oricorio. So taking the knockout, going down to 2 prizes, and this is definitely a scary position to be in if you're the Greens Firebox deck. I really don't even know how you combat this kind of outrageous start from Emerson. Is going to play the Heat Factory. I would have liked to see them utilize the Giant Hearth there before playing the Heat Factory, but no matter, going in with the Heat Factory and trying to decide what they want to do now. I mean, it's looking like a Flare Starter type of turn. It's kind of looking like, Welder doesn't do that all that much. Boss's Orders, maybe you can stall, but with the amount of energy that they play in their deck and the amount of energy recovery that Emerson has, it's going to be tough to really justify playing that Boss's Orders, except onto something like the Oranguru, which has 2 retreat. So we do see the Boss's Orders onto the Oranguru, probably the best option that they have. Will they go for a Dedenne or not? They are deciding, and yes, we do see a Dedenne hit the bench. Now that opens up another possible route for Emerson to win on the next turn. If they are able to power up the Cramorant, then we will see this Dedenne go down, and Emerson will win the match. On 2 attacks, that is just wild play from Blacephalon. And here's where you would have loved to see on the last turn Emerson use the Oricorio's ability. Unfortunately, you just want as many cards as you possibly can have, right? So an extra 3 cards. I mean, I would be absolutely stunned if with a 9-card hand the Blacephalon player couldn't get a knockout with the Oricorio, but now it just gets a little bit funky. We'll see where they opt to place energy. We do see that Heat Factory coming into play, drawing a few more cards. Scoop Up Net into, at this point, it almost doesn't matter what they scoop up into, whether or not they go into Cramorant or Blacephalon. See another energy retrieval. Again, this goes into a little bit of sequencing here. I would have liked to see the Stellar Wish before the energy retrieval, doing the unknown before the known, but it doesn't really matter at this point. They pretty much have this in the bag, and overall, very, very solid play from Emerson. Ultra Space comes down, bringing out the Blacephalon from the deck. We see it hit the bench, and potentially, no, we don't see a Welder. Again, I would like to see an energy attachment, though, either onto the Blacephalon or onto the Cramorant. That's going to be huge. I almost think at this point it might be better to power up the Cramorant, but no, we don't see an energy attachment. And there's the 150 to the active. Now, the one saving grace that Mikey has is that he could maybe do something with a reset stamp. If he's able to reset stamp his opponent, they have picked up a lot of energy back to the hand that they haven't used. So maybe they can catch him in a spot where they don't draw really into anything. They can knock out the main attacker in Blacephalon and then leave the opponent with nothing. And we do see a welder out of the active. So let's see here. What do they grab? Another acro bike is seen into the hand, but really nothing of oh, that is a huge hit. That fire energy means that they will be able to knock out the Blacephalon. Now what they need is the reset stamp. So let's see. That is the drama here. Oh, but I'm looking at the list. There is no reset stamp in their deck. So just having to take out the active and hoping that Emerson can't knock out something on the next turn. I would like to see Emerson go for the Cramorant. That is the most efficient way to win the game, either knocking out the Dedenne or the Volcanion on the bench. It really doesn't matter at this point. But will Emerson be able to cook up a Dedenne, or excuse me, cook up a Cramorant is the question. See that Blacephalon coming out with the Ultra Space and a Fiery Flint. Discarding a couple of Jirachis for 1 energy left. Now the deck has to be getting pretty low for Emerson. We see 12 cards left. Do they have a welder? And will they be able to find it off of this Stellar Wish? So Jirachi Stellar Wish picking out a switch. Definitely not the card that you want to see if you don't have a welder in hand. You almost wonder if pitching those 2 Jirachis is going to come back to bite them. See, Oranguru put something to the top. Is it a welder? And we think back earlier in the game, they had 2 opportunities that were missed to attach energy and maybe get ahead on the energy attachments. If they had just attached twice to the Cramorant, they could attach a 3rd time here and snipe on the bench and just win the game. I still think they're in a very solid and commanding position, especially since Mikey cannot retreat or not use the second attack on his Reshiram and Charizard. He has to find a way to switch twice, and he just doesn't have that in hand. So we'll see what speak of the devil, he tops the switch off the top of the deck. Will be able to take a knockout here. It just depends on what he wants to get a knockout on. Will he take the Jirachi? He has that boss's orders. Will he take the Blacephalon? Will he take the Cramorant? I mean, all of a sudden, it's looking a lot better than it was. We would like to see an energy attachment as well. We do see the boss's orders come down on the Blacephalon. That, in my opinion, might be the weakest gust potential there. I think I would have liked to try to force the win on the following turn by knocking out a Cramorant or an Oricorio, but no matter. We do see that attack come down for 230, and they're going to have to keep chaining switches in order to win the game, because that second attack on the Reshiram Charizard is hard to sustain. They won't be able to attack with that second attack next turn. Oh, we do see the Blacephalon GX come down. That should do it. I wonder if the last turn, if Emerson had that play, maybe searched out the wrong Blacephalon off of the Ultra Space, but it doesn't matter. For Emerson, well played, and as well for Mickey. Just a rough matchup there. That concludes the second round of the tournament with Emerson and her Blacephalon deck defeating Mickey and his Reshiram and Charizard deck. All right, we are back with round 3. This is Emerson against Christian. We are seeing from Christian's perspective, this is a Baby Blounds mirror match. So definitely a very exciting one. Basically, whoever goes first has a huge advantage, and whoever takes the first knockout has an absolutely massive advantage. Let me see if I can get this going here a little bit better so we can see the hand of Christian. I'm going to scroll down here, make this a little bit smaller. There we go. We just got different dimensions here on each of the different screens. So starting the Zacian for Emerson, And kind of a rough hand as well for Christian. No welder to be seen. Will he get the donk? We have an acrobike hitting the field. Searching out a Blacephalon. That's one piece of the puzzle. If they can find a welder off of this Jirachi, they'll opt to go here with the quick ball first. No? Debating between Jirachi and quick ball. There's the Stellar Wish. We do not see a welder. So that kind of bears into question whether or not they should grab a Dedenne with their quick ball. Of course, Dedenne could be that be the draw that they need to get a welder and 3 energy to one-shot the Zacian V with the Blacephalon. We do see a welder hit off of the second Jirachi, attaching the escape board to the first one and going in with the Stellar Wish to the second Jirachi. See a couple of energy go on with the welder. We see a switch, but no energy. So having to go in the deck for the quick ball, grabbing out the Dedenne, and if they can find a fiery flint, then this game is going to be just about over. Of course, having 2 energy in the discard, but being able to search out with things like fiery flint, we do not see the win. Oh my gosh. Absolutely crushing. If you're Christian, quickballing for the Oranguru, you have to think at this point that the game is just about over. If you got Dedenne for 6 and the main attacker set up, oh no. And a Blazer? Are we really going to see a Blazer here for potentially 120 more damage? I don't know. There it is, 120 damage to the active. That is a huge hit, making it so that on the next attack, they only need to discard 1 energy with the Fireball Circus. So it's Emerson's play here. Welder onto a Blacephalon, hoping that they can get 2 energies down. We do see 2 energies down to the Blacephalon. And if they can get a switch, another energy attached and 3 energies in hand, then they can take a knockout on the active Blacephalon of Christian. Does get the 3rd energy attached to that Blacephalon. Great catching up the Dedenne. Okay, that indicates to me that there might be a stall tactic by Emerson, and we do see an Intrepid Sword. So didn't have the attack that turn, and passing the action back over to Christian. Now, Christian has a number of things that they could do. They could just welder onto the active and retreat it manually. I think that's what I would do. And yes, we do see a welder come down to the active. Again, no energy. I don't know what you do at this point if you are Christian. You're just missing energy left and right. You need your fire crystals. You need your... just 1 energy would do it. But we just don't see it. So Christian here running 4 fiery flints, just unfortunately hasn't found them. Going to opt to use the scoop up net, I think, to go into the second Jirachi and look for that fiery flint. There is the second Jirachi. Stellar Wish. Fire Crystal, that will do it. Unfortunately, going to have to discard that escape board if they want to attack this turn, because that scoop up net is going to be the only way that they can retreat. Does come up with the Blacephalon. I'd like to see them bench one of their Jirachis. Primate Wisdom, the Jirachi back to the top of the deck, does end up getting the fiery flint. And Fire Crystals, the 3 energy back to hand, only needs to discard 1 of them to take 2 prizes, and that is just a killer for Emerson. Taking the knockout, opting to take the fire energy and a scoop up net off that prize. So here for Emerson, you see that they've discarded their only great catcher. That Beastbringer not going to come into play. All off the Intrepid Sword, they say. All those Pokemon. Definitely not what you want to see if you're a Blacephalon deck. They need to get welders. They need to get energies. There's the energy part. Coming in with the Fiery Flint. Grabbing 4 energy out of the deck. And oh my gosh, they do have the return. But Christian also has a return for the return. So Christian's sitting pretty with that welder and enough energy to take a knockout. Emerson is going to power up that Tapu Fini. Get that going. Get that ready for battle in response to the Blacephalon that Christian is going to have to play on the next turn. Jirachi comes active. And for Christian, really not too much that you want here at this point. I mean, one thing that would be kind of nice is to maybe get the Jirachi Prism combo off by finding a Mr. Mime, but it's not of vital importance. I do want to see the Tapu Fini come down. Or excuse me, not the Tapu Fini, the Oricorio come down if they have access. Which of course they do. It's in their hand right there. We can see that. There's the Fire Crystal off of that Stellar Wish. I think a very fine choice. Now, we do see a switch in hand, or a switch option. The Scoop Up Net is right there, third card from the right. But will it be the only switch that they have? They've had to discard at least one escape board, and they've already used a lot of Scoop Up Nets. So it's getting kind of to a point where, you know, you maybe don't want to discard too many other like switches and things like that, or promote Jirachi, because if you don't have enough switches to get Jirachi out of the active, then what is the point? Although you are up an insane amount, this kind of 2 prize lead is almost insurmountable. I would have liked to see the Oricorio come down. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get to see the extra draw 3. Maybe trying to save it in case there's a boss's orders or something that Emerson can play, but we've already seen again the Great Catcher come down, so I would have liked to see the Oricorio come down. Maybe again trying to say, okay, I've already played the Dedenne down. If I want to ever get the combo off, then I'm going to need to have, you know, multiple bench spots open, one for the Mr. Mime and one for the Jirachi Prism. So that could be the route that they opt to go there, and I don't think it's a bad one. I just don't know that it would be at this point. You're already ahead so far. I think I would have opted to play the Oricorio, just maybe refresh the hand a little bit more. So looking here at Emerson's list, trying to see how they can come back from this. Obviously the Tapu Fini is a card they're going to have to lean into heavily and just kind of hope that Christian whiffs on a welder or another attacker. We do see that, yeah, they play their one gust effect. So that Great Catcher is already gone, and with no boss's orders in sight, they're going to have to go through a lot of these one prizers to win the game. So the Tapu Fini comes up, Natural Wave, being able to attack for 1 colorless energy, taking the knockout, and going down to 4 prizes. Jirachi comes up for Christian, and we see a Fiery Flint. Now, Emerson with a pretty sizable hand, about 8 cards. You'd love to, you know, disrupt that. If you're the Blacephalon player, that is very big in the matchup too. If you can disrupt your opponent's hand, that can really swing the matchup. No matter what the matchup is against Blacephalon, Blacephalon relies on having these massive hands to just kind of stream attackers over and over. We do see an Oricorio come down. That was proper sequencing by Christian to take out the Fire Energy and then use the Oricorio. We see an Acrobike and does hit the Welder. That is huge. So with one Scoop Up Net, I don't know that the Jirachi Prism is going to be a factor in this game. I think that's what Christian has been trying to set up this entire game. Maybe last turn not playing the Oricorio down. With only one Scoop Up Net left, it's definitely very, very sketchy for him to be able to use the Jirachi Prism, but is gonna go for it. They need to hit the switch pretty much this turn, or excuse me, the Scoop Up Net pretty much this turn. I would take the switch here to get the knockout with the Blacephalon. Does end up getting the switch, and I almost wonder if they wanted to Welder first and then use that Stellar Wish. I think that might have been the optimal route, but no matter, they do get the Welder onto the Blacephalon, and of course Never Punished with that switch are going to drop the Stadium here. We will see a Heat Factory being able to draw some more cards, so the chances are still decent that they can hit into the scoop up net, but we don't see it. So unfortunately, going to have to Primate Wisdom to the top. The Mr. Mime is going to come down, but is not going to be able to use the effect of the Jirachi Prism on this knockout of the Tapu Fini. So I almost wonder if it was worth it or not to go for that line of play. We will see. Playing down the Mr. Mime is going to be a great risk to Christian. Just leaving no bench spot open for the Blacephalons. Maybe even could go for like a Cramorant snipe. They would need something like a Zigzagoon. Unfortunately, I am not seeing that in their list. So that is also out of the question. Now, if Emerson does play down her own Dedenne, then we see them not use the switch. Okay, so still really going for this this play here off of the combo. So we'll see if Emerson has a way to potentially get their own Cramorant. If they can get their own Cramorant and knock out the Blacephalon, that would be an absolutely massive swing in this game, and the momentum might shift enough that Emerson can steal this one. We'll see what they go for with this quick ball. And I was hoping that it'd be Cramorant. This is a huge punish if they're able to get this off. But no, just a natural wave to the active. I would have liked to see digging. If Emerson had the fire energy dig for the welder, because if you knock out the Blacephalon, I think that Christian is down 3 welders or something like that. But at this point, they can basically get checkmate on Emerson. With Emerson not having a way to refresh the hand, it's pretty impossible for them to prevent the Blacephalon GX from coming down and taking the last prize. So pretty unfortunate. We should just see this kind of play itself out. In that one turn, Emerson had that one turn to make things happen on that Blacephalon. Hope that Christian wasn't able to get a welder. We don't see that. I'm sure Christian has the optimal play in mind here, going for that Blacephalon GX to finish up the game. But I mean, props to Emerson. Played it out till the end. Had that unfortunate start, but was able to recover pretty nicely. And I think if you're not playing against a Blacephalon mirror, you have a shot in most every other matchup, even with a start as bad as they had. Fortunately, having to try to figure out another line of play here is not ideal, to say the least. And without a hand disruption card like a Marnie or a reset stamp, it's just not in the cards for Emerson. I think they're kind of realizing it, I'm sure, going over their plays here, trying to make sure that they're not missing anything and that they do have to just attack into the active with the Blacephalon. We do see the Cramorant. I think a turn too late, unfortunately. If we do see a welder and 2 energies, I again would have liked to see how this matchup kind of changes if they were able to activate that Cramorant on the last turn. So Cramorant hits the bench. See a Jirachi. Potentially could go for something like a deck out. I think that might be what they're looking for. And yeah, passes into the Cramorant. That is a very unusual play. But one that, you know, playing to their outs, knowing that if they knock out something on Christian's side of the field, that Christian will be able to put down a Blacephalon and just have that 1 fire energy to win the game. Great job. Christian takes it in the Blacephalon mirror against Emerson.